पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for coming today. So I'll speak today on some lessons that we can learn from the life of Hanuman. We start with so not what we thought. We had not informed them that we have that ISV all required. That's what we have said. But they didn't even know that we needed a projection. So it's
they're trying.
okay, you play or something.
But he wants a screen application, right?
But if it's connected to the same Wi-Fi, then you can do
iPad or Samsung?
Samsung.
Huh?
Samsung.
Yeah. So have we started the streaming though?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a temple link.
Anyway, let's continue without it.
How would we connect to Zoom Windows and somebody's laptop and start it?
Well, yeah, that could be an idea. But how will you project Zoom over there?
So you
But
connect.
if you have a laptop which connects to this, have you ever connected HDMI to the projector? With the laptop work over there?
Apple TV, I think.
So I'm a laptop.
If you stop the stream,
Stop it.
you can start it again if you want.
You connect to your Wi-Fi, you can try to show.
So, change it again.
Yes, true.
Yeah, please, the program doesn't play. Hare Krishna. So I was planning to discuss today based on the life of Hanumanji. And Hanuman, as we know, is one of the most beloved characters in the Ramayana. And he, when we understand the Ramayana, there are characters, and the characters also represent certain things. So Hanuman represents the combination of bhakti and shakti. Hanuman is a great devotee, and he is normally shown with folded hands. Hanuman also has a mace. That mace represents his shakti. So bhakti and shakti. And normally we think of bhakti as dependence on the Lord. That we depend on the Lord. We understand I am not the doer. But we see with the case of Hanuman, it is the Lord who is depending on him. The Lord is separated from Sita, and the Lord is depending on Hanuman to find Sita. Now, of course, the Lord is omnipotent and the Lord does not need anyone. But when the Leela is being performed in this world, at that time, there is this combination of the Lord sometimes manifesting the omnipotence and sometimes not manifesting his omnipotence. And because of that, it often happens that when the Lord is performing Leela, so he does not always act as if he is God. In fact, the nature of the world is that in this world, Krishna wants us, the humans, to take center stage. He wants us to take the initiative. Just as Krishna in Arjuna, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita tells Arjuna, you fight the war. So Krishna does not say, I'm God and I do everything. He says, I'm God, therefore you should do my will. So it's a very interesting combination that is demonstrated both in the Kurukshetra war as well as by Hanuman's actions. That's why if we consider a 4-quadrant diagram, we have x-axis and we have y-axis. So x-axis is Shakti and y-axis is Bhakti. So Hanuman represents the right top quadrant where there's both Shakti and Bhakti. Now there could be no Shakti and no Bhakti. There could be Shakti without Bhakti and there could be Bhakti without Shakti. Now we could look at all these quadrants and we can understand certain things. So for example, we have Hanuman as a combination of Shakti and Bhakti. Now if we consider Shakti but no Bhakti, the characteristic of that is Ravana. Now it's interesting, Ravana also has Bhakti. He has Bhakti to Lord Shiva. And we look at that, what that Bhakti is and how it is not actually Bhakti. But now we can say that there is Shakti, there is Bhakti without Shakti. Then the example of that is Jatayu. Jatayu, he had Bhakti, great Bhakti, and he fought heroically, and he also had Shakti. But the Shakti was not adequate for the challenge that he had to face. And thus, he could not do much over there. Now, we will see there's a journey. The journey is, now, if there's no Shakti and no Bhakti, then that character is not even worth knowing. That character is, there are many Rakshasas or Rakshasa soldiers who are fighting on Ravana's side. And nowadays we have products which are use and throw. So use and throw is you could call it technology, methodology, operational procedure. So Ravan is the founder of use and throw. What does that mean? That means that Ravan actually told his soldiers that all the demons who are killed, you should just throw their bodies deep into the ocean. So that the next morning when the demons come up, at that when the Vanaras come, the Vanaras will see that. I think let's forget it. If we have the Vanaras coming up, the Vanaras will see, they will see there are no corpses of the Rakshasas, and they will think that, oh, no, yesterday we didn't kill many soldiers of the enemy, and they'll become discouraged. So if we have Shakti and we have Bhakti, and then what happens is, if there is no Shakti and no Bhakti, then we are just inconsequential. We want to harm, but we can't harm much. So the demons who died, not very powerful demons, who died very early, they will fall in this category of no Shakti and no Bhakti. A Shakti without Bhakti is Ravana. Now, as I said, who is Bhakti without Shakti? In this case? Bhakti without Shakti. Jatayu. Yes. So now Jatayu also, as I said, is strong, but just not strong enough over there. Now, many times people ask that, I prayed to God, why did God not protect me? Or why did God not help me in this particular situation? And that's a valid question. But as I said, the hierarchy in the material world is, we have Ram and we have Hanuman. And it is Ram who is dependent on Hanuman rather than Hanuman being dependent on Ram. Now, Hanuman, of course, in his consciousness, thinks that it is by the chanting the name of Ram that I'll cross over this ocean. Tadgati Vigna Dhamsaka Rama. In the Ram Ramayana, it is said that Tadgati Vigna, that the Gati, the progress the Vandals are trying to make. So at that time, whatever obstacles came, it is Lord Ram who removed the obstacle. Tadgati Vigna Dhamsaka Rama. However, when those obstacles were removed, how did that actually happen? It was the Vanaras had to be thoughtful. Hanuman had to be intelligent. Hanuman is said to be Buddhimatam Varishtam. He's said to be the among the wisest people. He is extremely wise, supremely wise, Varishtam. So there are many qualities of his described. And of course, he's the Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye. I surrender to that Ramadutam. So it is that when we function in the world, there is bhakti, which is primarily for transforming the heart. Now, can bhakti transform the world? Of course, it can transform the world. But to transform the world, bhakti has to be coupled with Shakti. Without Shakti, bhakti itself is wonderful. It's like a simple thing. Say, if somebody doesn't know how to cook, and they become in charge of cooking food for a big program, and 100 people or 500 people are coming for that program, and now they cook with great devotion, the very prayerful devotional attitude. With their cooking, Krishna will be pleased, and only Krishna will be pleased. So, generally speaking, in the world, when we want to do something, for that Shakti is required. So the Lord is Bhavagrahi, but the Jagat is not Bhavagrahi. The world, the Lord looks at our intent, the Lord looks at our emotion. The Lord looks at what our disposition is. Srila Prabhupada, during one of his last conversations was that how will Krishna consciousness spread? So Prabhupada said, it is by organization and intelligence. It's interesting, Srila Prabhupada did not say Krishna consciousness will spread by chanting Hare Krishna. You do your japa regularly. You make sure that you complete sadhana by this time. Or you do this. Now, those are important things. And those are good for our own purification. That's required. But Srila Prabhupada did not think that by staying in Vrindavan and chanting purely, Krishna consciousness will spread all over the world. He had to take risk and travel. So, organization and intelligence are, in this case, Shakti. Organization is planning. That is, Shakti doesn't just necessarily mean physical power. Shakti can mean many different kinds of powers. But the point is, in this world, for anything to be successful, Shakti is required. And if Shakti is not there, then the endeavor will please Krishna, but the endeavor won't be successful in this world. So, many times when we are trying to practice bhakti, we may confuse the reality of this world and the reality of the spiritual world. We may have spiritual consciousness, but that does not make the material world spiritual. The material world still remains material. And so when Hanuman is going to Lanka, it is not that he is simply, oh, I'll chant Ram's name and I'll find Sita. No, we see that he is very, very careful, he's very, very resourceful. He's trying to find his way to find Sita. He's using his intelligence, he's facing challenges and he's dealing with those challenges. So, broadly speaking, let's look at what all he goes through. The principle here is that when we function in the world, we focus on the resources that are needed for being successful in this world. And that's why there is a system of Varnashram. Varnashram is not simply dividing people into 4 groups or 4 castes or 4 Varnas. It is that people who are competent for a particular role should be given that role. And like that, society will function. In the world, when we talk about distress, there are three kinds of distress. There is some distress which is just inescapable, it is unavoidable, it is just a fact of life. Now, that is the weather sometimes becomes cold, the weather sometimes becomes hot. That's just unavoidable distress in the world. Now, there is some distress which is avoidable. If we, on a cold night, forget to close a window in the house and it becomes chilly and everybody falls sick, can we say, oh, this is Dukkhalaya Shashmatam? No, this is one's own foolishness. So it's one, so there is avoidable distress in the world. There's some distress which is unavoidable and some distress which is avoidable. Now, beyond this, there is some distress which is helpful for us to grow in life. So, for example, if some child wants to learn cycling, when they want to learn cycling, then they may fall down and they get up again, fall down and get up again. It hurts a little bit. It hurts the body, it hurts the ego, you fall down. But through that, when we learn, we grow. So all distresses are not all the same. And for removing the avoidable distresses, we need intelligence and expertise in the world. That is a form of Shakti. So if somebody's got cough, now the cough, why has the cough come? You can say it's unavoidable distress. No, it's not avoidable. Maybe it is, maybe it is not. We take the medicine, we get cured. So the point is, in the world, for functioning, Shakti does not just mean physical power. Shakti means the resources required for dealing with the world. It could be intellectual power, if there's a disease, it could be medical power, it could be technological power, it could be financial power, whatever it is. So for serving, even our intention is to serve Krishna, but for us to serve Krishna in the world, we need Shakti also. So bhakti will give us the direction. So bhakti gives us the direction. So bhakti is like a compass, but Shakti is like the car. We need to have a compass about where we want to go. But after having the compass, we need a means to go there. If we don't have the means, we won't get there. So the compass and the car, both are required. And so Shakti is like the car, Bhakti is like the compass. Now, what does this mean? Without Bhakti, a person will just not know where to go and what to do in life. So Bhakti is required and Shakti is also required. And when both come together, that's when a person is actually able to do something substantial in the service of the Lord. And if you look at Hanuman's life, I'll talk about three or four incidents when Hanuman goes into Lanka. And we'll see how his bhakti is there at the background. And that's why he's there, first of all. But the Shakti in the sense of the right resources, the right thinking, the right and deciding that he does. So I'll be talking about Hanuman's adventures in Lanka in this and the future sessions. But today, I'll talk about an acronym COOL. How Hanuman keeps a cool head. So I'm talking about the emotions and the actions that Hanuman does. And so today I'll talk about cool, tomorrow I'll talk about head, and probably day after tomorrow I'll talk about something more. So we'll continue this broad discussion. So the first thing that Hanuman does, now I'm not talking here about what happens to Hanuman, how he crosses the various obstacles when going across the ocean. Talking about when he enters into Lanka. If we consider the situation when he has entered into Lanka, at that time, this is the biggest mission of his life. It's significant that as far as the stories of Hanuman that we have in the main literature, there are many other literature, Hanuman has till now not gone ever on a solo mission this big. Yes, Hanuman was sent alone to meet Ram and Lakshman to find out who they were. But Sugriva and Jambal were nearby. Hanuman has gone all alone, completely into enemy territory. And he has just rediscovered his powers. He has remembered his powers. Now he knows his powers. At the same time, just because there is Shakti does not mean that he can use brute force and he can just barge his way. The first thing that Hanuman does is he's cautious. When he enters, he goes in a very small form. He's taken a giant form when he's going across the ocean. But as he enters into Lanka, he takes a small form. And the idea is he doesn't want to draw attention to himself. He's here in Lanka. His purpose is to find Sita. Now Ravan, as far as he knows, is a deadly demon. And what Ravan can do, what condition Sita is, and if Ravan comes to know that somebody from Ram's side has come into Lanka, what might he do to Sita? He doesn't want to take any risk over here. So cautiously he goes. Now it's a completely new place for him. See, the task, if you think about it, is such a difficult task. You have to go to an unknown place to find an unknown person whom you have never seen before. It's almost many times there are these movies called Mission Impossible. So, so actually Hanuman had the ultimate Mission Impossible. That what happened was for him going all alone. It's to a place that at that time there was no Google Maps and there were no smartphones to take photos. So he had just had one glimpse of Sita. Where Sita was going about being taken by Ravan. At that time, he had just had one glimpse. It was very, very brief and fleeting. And it's interesting that Lord Ram gave him a signet that when you see Sita, you can give this to her. But it is no description that Lord Ram gave any vivid description of Sita that to recognize her. So how was he going to recognize her? That itself is a challenge. Now, generally speaking, whenever we start looking, when we have some task, it's there are two ways to approach a task. One is to see what is not possible and then come to what remains. The other is to see what is most probable and then move from the most probable to the improbable. Say if we lost our phone, we lost our phone somewhere, then what is the most probable? Okay, generally I keep my phone in my car or my table, in my bag. So start with the most probable places. And then if you don't find them there, move toward the more improbable places. So searching can be done in two ways. That start with the most probable. Or the other is start with the eliminating the least probable. So either we explore the most probable or we eliminate the most improbable. What do you mean by eliminate the most improbable? That means that, okay, I went to 20 places in the last 10 days and I might have dropped this card anywhere. So list out, and we lost our credit card. So then now we start by thinking, at this place, I didn't even open my credit card. I didn't open my wallet. I didn't open this also. I didn't open that also. So then what do I do? We start from just eliminate the least improbable. And then whatever remains, that's where we are. So now Hanuman, he starts with the most probable. He thinks that Ravan is the ruler of Lanka. And therefore, Ravan's palace must be the biggest palace. So today, Ajay Depo and Anjali Bhatia had organized a program for me in Salesforce. When you're going there, they were telling it's the tallest building in San Francisco, or probably the West Coast also. So like that, Ravan's building was the tallest in Lanka. So now Hanuman waited for the night to come. And then he was discreetly searching. He started by looking at which buildings are the tallest buildings. And from there, he slowly adopted a process of going there and he started peering in through the windows. So very cautiously, without drawing attention, he started searching. Now Hanuman had great power and it's possible that he could have challenged the demons, could have defeated them, maybe he could have caught a demon, he could have beaten up a demon, tell me where Sita is. He could have taken that approach. But the thing is that although his power was great, his power was not unlimited. And many times when we hear these stories, the stories which are given in the epic, sometimes people will say, oh, these are all so fantastic kind of stories. Oh, somebody leaps across the ocean, somebody flies, and somebody monkeys who talk, and all these things. These can all seem very improbable. Yeah, and they can seem unbelievable. Now, that is one aspect of it. So, but the another aspect is that there may be characters who have powers which are far different from our powers. They may be much greater than our powers, but nobody has all power. And everybody is limited in some way. And therefore, rather than focusing on their abilities, we focus, if we want to learn from the scriptures, we focus on the decisions that they make. Everybody, no matter how powerful they might be, will sooner or later face limitations. And within the constraints of those limitations, they have to function. So Hanuman had great power. He would have defeated one demon, 10 demons, 100 demons, 1,000 demons. But could he have defeated all the demons? Now, he had been given extraordinary power. I said, what was the extent of his power? So Hanuman did not want to take any risk more than necessary. That's why he did not take the approach of direct confrontation. Go and beat up and torture or threaten somebody and just force them to give a confession. He was discreetly searching. Where is Sita? So there is, when we are trying to do any service, that we can go towards two extremes. One is a person may have lack of confidence. The English word is diffidence. Person is very insecure and diffident. The other is the person is overconfident. And as devotees, in between is what we need is confidence. So if we are diffident, we are insecure. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. Well, if Prabhupada had been diffident, he would never have come to America. So lack of confidence is not humility. Lack of confidence is not humility. Lack of confidence is just insecurity. Lack of confidence will paralyze us. When we say a devotee is humble, that means the devotee is not very self-conscious. Oh, I am so terrific or I am so terrible. A devotee is that no, I am the servant of the Lord. The Lord's mission is the more important. So overconfidence is where we think that we can do anything and everything, which none of us can do. In one sense, we consider overconfidence is in the direction of thinking I am God. I can do everything. Diffidence is in the direction of thinking that I am nothing. Krishna said, Mamaivam Visho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Krishna has made each one of us his parts and eternally his part. That means we all have a part to play. And Krishna will give us the power to play that part. So Hanuman is not timid and fearful, thinking, oh, how can I do such a big service? But nor is he overconfident and brash and reckless. He's cautious. So confidence means that he's cautious, but he's also courageous. Just being there shows his courage. Alone, he could have said, I can jump across the ocean, I can reach there. But what will I do all alone over there? Now you have to come with me, otherwise I can't do it. No. So being cautious is important, but being courageous is also important. When Srila Prabhupada came to America, it's an incredible act of courage for a person at the age of 79 to come to America. At the same time, for Srila Prabhupada, he was cautious. Prabhupada said, I didn't know whether to turn left and right. Prabhupada was exploring what could he do, where could he go, whom would he meet, and what will happen by that. So now, when he was cautious, what happened was he started searching, and he came to the biggest palace. He started looking everywhere in the biggest palace. And because it was night and Ravan was given to all kinds of enjoyment, So there were his maidservants, and he had many queens, and many of them were not properly dressed. And when Hanuman saw that, it's interesting that he became thoughtful, he became introspective, he became observant of his own actions. So the emotion that he goes through. So I'm going to talk here more from the physical journey of Hanuman, but also the psychological journey of Hanuman. What was his thoughts? What were his emotions? And so the physical journey involves extraordinary powers. And that is not replicable for us so much. And that may not be relevant also for us. But the journey involves this physical dimension and the psychological dimension. When you talk about psychological dimension, what that means is that within the psychological dimension, what were the emotions he was going through? So when he saw all these women in different states of undress, it was not that he was agitated with it. It was what is described is that not that he became desirous, not that he became tempted, but actually he became thoughtful. A doubt came within him. Am I doing the right thing over here? Am I doing the right thing? What am I doing coming over here? So in the Valmiki Ramayana itself, there is no mention of Hanuman being a celibate. Later literature talk about it. In the Valmiki Ramayana, it's implicit, but it's not explicit. See, there are many things which, when we look from the lens of very careful scholarship, there are, for example, the word avatar does not come at all in the Bhagavad Gita. But the concept of avatar is there very much. Then Yada Yada Hi Dharma say very prominent is there. Now, the word bhakti yoga comes only once in the entire Gita. The word bhakti is there, the word yoga is there. But the word bhakti yoga comes only once in the Bhagavad Gita. That is in the Mamcha Yoga Vicharena Bhakti Yoga. Only once in the entire Gita. Now, does that mean that bhakti yoga is not a very important thing? No, there's at least an entire middle section about bhakti. You could say, according to our acharyas, our traditional acharyas, the whole Bhagavad Gita is about bhakti. And other sections are leading to bhakti. But whichever way you take it, bhakti is an important part. So now the point over here is Hanuman is cautious. What am I doing over here? Am I doing the right thing? So when we talk about being observant, so I was using, what is the acronym I was using? Cool. So C was cautious. He was cautious. He was not just reckless pushing it. And O, he was observant. Now, observant not only about externals. He obviously had to observe because he had to find Sita, but he was also observant of his own emotions. So it was not so much. It's interesting how the psychology works over here. That he was not agitated by what he saw, but he was more agitated, if we may use the word, agitated by the fact that he was seen. Isn't it? That he's not agitated by temptation. He was not agitated by improper desire. He was more agitated by the thought whether my action is improper. So this itself shows a very high level of consciousness. If some people do something wrong and they're not even aware that they did something wrong. What is becoming agitated by doing something wrong? Isn't it? Some people, they speak very hurtfully, and after they speak hurtfully, how could you speak like that? They only, why are you such a snowflake? Why do you get agitated? I just speak, I make it fun. So it's like some people, they do an action. So it's like the action could be right or wrong, and there could be awareness. Is the action right or wrong? Mhm. So some people do a wrong action and they have no awareness also that action is right or wrong. So sometimes we may do a wrong action, or we may think we are doing a wrong action even before doing that, while doing that, after doing that. Hey, what did I do? Did I do the right thing over here? So that awareness itself shows his alertness, the level of his character. Like some devotees, they may speak very hurtfully and somebody else has to tell them, you committed a Vaishnava aparadha. And some other devotees, they speak a little harshly and they come and say, did I have spoken like that to the devotee? Did I commit a Vaishnava aparadha by speaking like that? We should live in fear that we commit a Vaishnava aparadha all the time. But just that its consciousness is there. So basically, our action could be right or wrong. That means, again, this is the four quadrant kind of thing. Our action could be right or wrong. And we are aware of the action or we are unaware of the action. Now, it's not simply we are unaware of what we are doing, we are unaware of the moral dimension of the action. Hanuman is aware of what he is doing. And that awareness itself shows the strength of his character, his virtue. But then he starts thinking, I have been tasked with finding a woman. And where am I going to find a woman? Except in the women's chambers. And I'm not here to seek any pleasure. I'm here to fulfill the purpose that I have. And that purpose requires me to come here. Therefore, I'm coming here. So, some people, so now Hanuman would have said, I cannot be over here. But if he will not be over there, he will not be able to find Sita. So, when basically, then we all want to protect our morality, our purity, our spirituality. At the same time, how far can we go towards protecting it? We live in a world where we need to function in the world. And if you function in the world, it's interesting if we consider the contrast between what Ajamil saw and what Hanuman saw. And we don't know exactly what Hanuman saw, but certainly it was agitated. But Hanuman was not agitated. Ajamil was agitated. And Ajamil was not, neither of them is a vicious person. Neither of them is not a lusty person like Ravan at all. Now, what happened for Hanuman was that the strength of his purpose was very strong. For Ajamil, the difference was that he also had gone for a service. He had gone to collect firewood for his father. But at that time, it was an errand that he was doing. And the temptation that came over there, the sight that created a desire. So for us, when we go into a particular area for service, now can we go in that area? It is then the temptation over there. The security comes only in the final. Our purpose needs to be stronger than the pleasure that is tempting us. The purpose that is driving us is stronger than the pleasure tempting us. So if the purpose becomes weaker and the pleasure becomes stronger, then we will get distracted. We will get diverted. Somebody is building a big temple for the Lord. And the purpose is to build a big temple. But while they're building a big temple, they get a lot of money, they get a lot of prestige. And then they get intoxicated by the prestige and the wealth that comes from it. And then what happens? They get yoga brushed. So now, to some extent, of course, there are extreme pleasures, extreme temptation places we need to avoid. But we cannot really have a place in the world which is completely temptation free. What we need to do is we need to keep the strength of our purpose strong. So Hanuman introspects on, okay, what is my purpose over here? My purpose is to find Sita. And this is where I need to find Sita. And therefore, he does not get agitated. So the strength of our purpose is actually the most important thing. Srila Prabhupada was asked in even the Bhagavad Dharma lectures. He said, Prabhupada, when we want to serve Krishna, why is Maya so strong? And Prabhupada's reply was, because your purpose is not strong. The strength of Maya is actually, in one sense, inversely proportional to the strength of our purpose. When our purpose is weak, then Maya becomes very strong. When our purpose is strong, then Maya becomes weak for us. So if we are going out for distributing books, and even if we go into a place where there are all kinds of temptations, the purpose is to distribute books, that's what we focus on. But if we're just going for casually for a walk without any purpose, maybe just strolling, just going sightseeing, and from that sightseeing, and we'll go to see a site and then we'll become casualty site ourselves. Isn't it? Our own heart and our own mind will become casualty site. So our purpose is what we need to strengthen. So Hanuman's observed, my purpose is strong. And then he moves forward. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, na kama kami. He talks about desires may come in, but desires don't go out. So the perception is coming in, but there is no agitation within, because there is some higher purpose over there. Here actually Hanuman embodies consciousness like an ocean. For him, his purpose of serving Lord Ram is so strong that this particular temptation coming in does not agitate him, because he is Apuryamanavachala Pratishtham. So Hanuman's purpose actually embodies that shloka in the Bhagavad Gita. It says, if our consciousness is like an ocean, then rivers coming into the ocean don't disturb me. So the difference is for Ajamil versus Hanuman, Ajamil's consciousness is like a puddle at that particular time. Hanuman's consciousness like an ocean. If a puddle, if water comes in, then what river comes in, the puddle will completely get disrupted. Hanuman from here, he moves onwards. And then as he's moving, Ravan has a giant palace. And he's peeking through various windows to see what's going on. And then finally, he comes to what seems to be like the master chamber. And there's a majestic bed. And in that bed, he sees an exquisitely beautiful lady sleeping. And he thinks, oh, this is Sita. He becomes overjoyed. And he's on the edge of the window, jumping up and down in joy. And he becomes so delighted. I found Sita. And as he's elated, Krishna says at one point in the Bhagavad Gita that don't become too elated when there is good things happen, don't become too dejected when bad things happen. So he is naturally, it's been a long time searching, finally has found his nature. It's understood that he'll be delighted, but he starts thinking, as you observe, she's extremely beautiful, she also looks virtuous. But the first doubt that comes in his mind is, she's sleeping very peacefully. He, in his heart, is remembering how much agony Ram is in separation of Sita. And from that, not only did he, what Ram told him, not only did he know how much Ram loved Sita, he also knew how much Sita loved Ram. So he thought that Sita cannot be sleeping peacefully like this. And this cannot be Sita. And then at that time, moon is coming from the clouds and going. The moon comes from behind the cloud and the moonlight fall on the face of this woman. And he says, actually, she's not Sita. And then his joy disappears. Still have to find Sita. Where am I going to find her? He keeps searching. And he's at the biggest palace. He speaks it through all the windows. He cannot find Sita anywhere. And then he starts thinking, is Sita in any of the other palaces? So this is always overjoyed. He's initially overjoyed, but that overjoyed does not last for very long. And then he keeps searching. He goes to the various palaces. He is searching everywhere. First, he starts the biggest palaces, it goes to smaller palaces, smaller houses. Maybe Sita is kept somewhere else. And why would Sita be kept somewhere else? Why would Ravana not keep her in his palace? If he desired her so much that he went to the trouble of abducting her, then he would surely keep her in the palace. But he searches everywhere. And nowhere can he find Sita. And that's when that same Hanuman starts feeling lost. So it's a very turbulent ride of emotions. At one moment he's feeling overjoyed. As he keeps searching, he can't find it. He starts feeling lost. He starts feeling hopeless. He starts sinking into despair. He has worked so hard. He has overcome extraordinary obstacles. It's interesting till now. Hanuman actually had only one major fight. That was with Simika. With Lankini, it was not much of a fight. He just punched her and she fell aside. But still, Hanuman has navigated many dangers. And through it all, he has come. Now, Arjuna, on the day when he wanted to kill Jayadratha, he vowed to kill Jayadratha. Arjuna fought heroically and he came so close to Jayadratha. And that's the time when Duryodhana had 8 warriors attack Arjuna. He had 6 warriors attack Abhimanyu. So Arjuna is better than Abhimanyu. He had 8 warriors. And Arjuna could see Jayadratha's chariot standard, but he just couldn't even move. So many were the arrows coming from all sides. He's so close and yet so far. And Arjuna had begun to despair. We know Krishna intervened at that time. Hanuman also began to despair. He's come, gone so far. If you see the search, first is they don't even know where to go. Then they come to know finally where to go to Lanka and how to get to Lanka. They have got to Lanka. After that, now in Lanka, where to search? He searched everywhere. Now, what more can he do? It's many times when we lose hope, loss of hope can happen at various levels. Loss of hope. We all face loss in life. The loss of hope can be because we feel that we don't have a path. I don't know what to do. Or loss of hope can be because we don't have the power. Like say our car is broken down and we just can't get the car repaired. And there's no one else coming by that road. And we are starving, we are thirsty, we are a completely deserted road. Whoever comes by, they don't even stop. So it's like we know where to go, but we just don't have the power to go there. But the most damaging loss is the loss of purpose. The 3 levels of loss: loss of path, loss of power, and loss of purpose. Loss of path is I don't know where to go. I'm lost. Loss of power is I don't have a vehicle by which to. But loss of purpose is I just don't feel like going anywhere. I don't feel like doing anything. So everybody will face problems in life. And so loss of path for somebody could be, okay, I'm in this job, but I just don't see any path ahead in this job. No, there's no career growth over it. It's a loss of path. Loss of power could be that we have some abilities, but we have learned a particular skill, but that skill becomes obsolete. And we learn some other skill. And then we don't have that skill, but we're not of much use. But loss of purpose is where why should I do anything at all? What is the point even of living? That's why people, when I say that if you think too much, you'll become pessimistic in life. Because sometimes you start thinking that everything can seem worthless. Hey, we have to take care of our child, we have to feed our body, we have to take care of our homes. Okay, this body will die within 100 years. My child is about to die alive after 150 to 100 years. I build this house will be destroyed after 200, after life lasts for 50, 100, 200 years. Now, if we expand the time scale, everything can seem pointless. And that's why if philosophy has to be presented to a person who's disapproval. If the temporariness of everything is presented to somebody in Tamoguna, they will not become spiritual, they will become hopeless. That for somebody who has tamasic, what is the point of living? And we tell that there's no point of living. Then they'll say, okay, then I'm not living. So Hanuman, the loss that he's facing over here is the loss of path, is the loss of power, the loss of purpose. What is it?
Loss of path.
Loss of?
Path.
Okay, they're all 3 answers. So one of them has to be right.
Actually, all 3 is
Loss of
Purpose is definitely not lost.
He's still determined to find, he wants to find Sita.
yeah.
Loss of purpose, not there. Has he lost power?
No.
His power is still there.
path.
Loss of path. I don't know what I'm going to do right now. So, where should I search for Sita at all? What should I do? When we see when Srila Prabhupada came to America, that's what at one time happened to him. When he was staying with David Allen. And this David was promised to become one of his first disciple. And then that person took drugs and went high and went crazy and attacked Prabhupada. And Prabhupada had to leave that home. Now it's interesting, Prabhupada did not accept. It said, I am Krishna's pure devotee. Krishna will come in a miraculous form. And like we have, what is that? Durvas created the demon to act to attack Ambarish. Ambarish stood peacefully, and Krishna then threw his chakra. Nothing like that happened to Prabhupada. Prabhupada did not expect something like that to happen. No, a devotee does not demand miracles from Krishna. Prabhupada had to leave from that place. But now, at that time, Prabhupada, he was just on the streets. He didn't know what was homeless. Now, Prabhupada had not lost his purpose. His purpose was still to share his spiritual masters, share Krishna message, fulfill spiritual master instruction. The power in terms of he had the ability to speak, he had the ability to share. But what am I going to do? Where am I going to stay? Whom am I going to speak to? So sometimes we all can feel that we are lost in our path. And that is the time when, okay, Krishna, what do I do? How do I move away from over here? So Hanuman is feeling completely lost over it. He sinks in despair, feeling that there's nothing more we can do. And for us, if we go on, we take some responsibility, which is very, very important. And then when that sense comes that I have failed, it's not just it's not just depressing, it can be crushing. So Hanuman, we are lost. And that is the time the movie says intermission now. So I'll continue this about how Hanuman regained his hope and how we move forward in our future sessions, which I'll be holding. Where the next session will be? Tomorrow, day after. No, not tomorrow.
After will be at Mayapur Heritage also.
Mayapur Festival.
Fremont.
Okay. Probably we'll have a live stream.
Yes.
Okay. I'll summarize what I discussed today. Broadly discuss Hanuman's story and started with one principle that Hanuman embodies the blend of Shakti and Bhakti. So we discussed that Bhakti is wonderful for pleasing Krishna, but it's Shakti that is necessary for acting in the world. The Lord is Bhavagrahi, the world is not Bhavagrahi. And that's why a devotee has to acquire the appropriate powers. So we discussed the four quadrants that Bhakti and Shakti is Hanuman. Shakti without Bhakti is Ravana. Bhakti without Shakti is Jatayu. And neither Bhakti nor Shakti is the weaker demons in Ravana's side, who are just killed and they're just thrown away by Ravana. Doesn't even care for them at all. So for him, they're completely dispensable. And then, now, does that mean we all have to acquire Shakti? Yes, if you want to do a particular service, either we acquire the Shakti for doing that service, or we see what Shakti we have and we take up that service. It can work both ways. So Bhakti and Shakti are both required. And we discussed how Srila Prabhupada also said that to study Krishna consciousness, we need purity, but he also said that we need organization, we also need intelligence. The appropriate skills are both required. So either we get Shakti or use the Shakti that we have. Then we were discussing about Hanuman's journey to Lanka, and I discussed four attributes that were seen. What are they? The acronym was Hanuman journey to Lanka, yes. So C was cautious. So when he went in, he was not reckless. He was not thinking, I have so much power, I can do anything. He was cautious. And so now, of course, his caution was not caution alone can just make one fearful. He was cautious plus courageous. We discussed this is where a devotee's confidence comes in.
Yeah.
A devotee is not diffident, a devotee is not overconfident.
Yeah.
That a devotee says, what service can I do and what ability do I have to do that service? So cautiously entered in a discreet form. He had great power, but he didn't want to risk unnecessary danger. He wanted to first complete the mission of finding Sita. Then he was observant. So it is not that he was agitated by what he saw, he was agitated that he saw. And then, am I doing the right thing? So we discuss how some people they can do their action can be right or wrong, but they can be aware, or they may not even be aware of what they are doing. And it's important to be aware of what we are doing. Then after that, discuss what made Hanuman not tempted was his purpose was much greater than the pleasure that was dangled before him. So for all of us, we cannot avoid the temptation of the world. But when we are going to enter the world, we need to strengthen our purpose for facing the world. And next door was he was overjoyed. He was overjoyed, but he did not get carried away by it. Sometimes we may get so much caught in joy that we may neglect everything else. He was overjoyed, but then he restrained himself. He thought that Sita cannot be so peaceful over here. And then he kept searching. And then he found that could not find Sita, he felt lost. And lost, we discussed that loss can be at very different levels. Loss of hope. But the loss of hope can be because of we lose our power, we lose our
power and purpose.
So Hanuman still had a purpose. He just lost his path. I don't know what to do. And that can happen to anyone in the world. So when the path is lost, that does not mean that there is no path. It's just that we are not able to see the path at that time. So Hanuman will still persist, and then he will find a path and he will recover. That we'll discuss in future sessions. Thank you very much.
Very useful.
Are there any questions or comments? Yes, please.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful session. Prabhu, first point you said Bhakti and Shakti, right? I have a question. If a person is trying to maintain his material possessions and spiritual things, is it too much for a person to become successful in his life to balance both things?
The problem is that if you often seek material positions beyond our capacity. If you never tried to become an archer like Arjuna, and Arjuna never tried to become a mace fighter like Bhima. That now we all need some Shakti to function in the world. But Charan Krishna says that it is better to do our own work. So quite often the problem is that we all have been given some ability in the world. The problem is often we look at which ability is glamorized, which service is praised, and we try to crave for that particular. And if a Brahmana starts craving for wealth, the Brahmana will be miserable. Try to think about wealth and calculate it. Similarly, if a Shudra is told to manage people, Shudra is given a Kshatriya role, the Shudra will be miserable. So each of us, we definitely need to strive in the material world. But we need to strive in a way that does not disproportionately agitate our life. Like I said, there's some distress which is unavoidable and some distress which is necessarily essential. You can't avoid it in life. But that distress helps us grow. It's strengthening, it's uplifting. So what is the nature of that distress? We have to see that. So yes, it will be difficult, but it will become overwhelming if we are pursuing something that just gives us no satisfaction, only causes agitation. Okay. Yes. Any other question?
So as a continuation of that, how do we know like what we could do, like what means what is beyond our destiny? Is it trial and error? Or?
So it's life does not come with a ready-made manual. That's why I don't like the term calling scripture as a manual. I don't like that. I prefer the word scripture as a guidebook. Manual is like you press this button, this will happen. You pull this lever, this will happen. Life is not that simple. So scripture is a guidebook. It's not a manual. Life does not come with a manual.
So scripture could help us in doing the trial and error. How wisely we can do trial.
Yeah. So see, when the Pandavas had to deal with the Kauravas, the Pandavas tried trial and error. When Bhima tried to poison, Bhima was poisoned with Duryodhana. Bhima survived, he came back and said, I want to teach Duryodhana a lesson, right? And Yudhishthira said, don't accuse him, right? No, we are new over here. Our whole family is split. Now, could it have been that if Bhima had taught Duryodhana lesson at that time, Duryodhana might not have become a worse person? I don't know. Bhima made a decision, Yudhishthira made a decision based on what he thought was pragmatic. But then sometimes it works right, sometimes it does not work right. So yes, life is about, Srila Prabhupada tried so many things for trying to share Krishna. Many of them didn't work. Some of them work, and some of them work spectacularly. Yes, life is an experiment in which we all deal with our finiteness, observing what things work, what things don't work. Yes.
No, I was just thinking that sometimes we think that material uh, possessions can be helpful in spiritual life. For example, Lakshmi. But you brought a very good point about satisfaction. But while doing that, trying to get the material possession, if you're not getting satisfaction, and will create more and more overwhelming nature. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Just, reflecting on that.
See, generally, when we're doing something, to answer your question, when we're doing something according to our varana, one thing will happen is that we will get some intrinsic satisfaction by doing that.
Mm.
If somebody likes music, somebody likes art, somebody likes cooking, somebody likes maths, whatever they like, when they do that, that gives some intrinsic satisfaction. That does not mean they don't want extrinsic satisfaction. Of course, whatever you would like recognition, you would like fame, you would like our work to be effective, more than being recognized. But if we are doing something which also gives intrinsic satisfaction, then we still have dissatisfaction that it's not being recognized by the world. But just doing that brings some joy. There's one Nobel laureate author who said that I love being read, but I love even more having written.
Mm.
Writing is what I'm meant to do. I love that I wrote. Of course, who would not want their writing to be read? So we all will find if we are trying to guide our children, what we see, what is it my child does, even if no, I don't praise my child, even if sometimes they do force our children to do some things. But what is it they do naturally and they are happy doing it? I don't want to say that they are happy watching or playing video games, but something meaningful. So that way. Yes, last question.
No, I think to some extent you answered my question, but still I'll ask this question. So we are trained, at least in Varnashram Dharma, that the girls are supposed to be shy and all that. But in today's society, even in temples nowadays, they want to be, Matajis are announcing and taking leadership position. So how do we balance that? How much do we encourage them to, if the kid is a shy, get out of that and become more extrovert, or somebody's extrovert make them introvert? Do we even try that?
I see. We have a very simplified understanding of Varnashram, it's simplistic. See, within Varnashram itself, there is diversity. Sita's character and Draupadi's character are very different,
Mm.
isn't it? And both of them are great characters. In Krishna itself, Radharani and Chandravali's mood are different. Rukumani and Satyabhama's mood are different. Isn't it that there is human beings are people are complex, they're multifaceted. So there is space for accommodating different people with different natures within their particular scope. So, Draupadi went with the Pandavas to the forest. Subhadra did not. Does that mean Subhadra is less chaste? No. Subhadra, the Pandavas wanted that Abhimanyu be raised properly, Abhimanyu be trained properly. And they felt that that training could happen much better in Dwarka than it could happen in the forest. So she agreed. So was she happy about that? Obviously not. She would have. But the point is that it doesn't give room for individuality. So within bhakti also, I think the way Prabhupada, if you look at Prabhupada's statements, when Prabhupada came to America, see Prabhupada came from India, from a very traditional conservative culture. That's what he writes about in his books, about women having political gender roles. But then when he came to America and he saw American women, he said that these are just like the boys. These girls are just like the boys. They do everything. And Prabhupada said, you cannot force them to do. So the idea of a woman going all alone, or a woman going out to approach some unknown men and ask them to take books. So when the institution makes money through women, at that time Varnashram we don't remember, isn't it? When the women has to take some leadership role in terms of making announcements and giving class, no remember Varnashram. You want to remember Varnashram, stop women from distributing books first. No, that brings money for the institution. So what is that? There's an atheist who said that when it comes to money, everyone belongs to the same religion. So my point is not that distribution is wrong. See, if you want to apply Varnashram, why are we applying Varnashram selectively? Isn't it?
Mm.
So, so my understanding of Swabhava or nature is that Swabhava is not just determined by one's previous life and previous life samskara. It's also determined by this life's upbringing. Now, how much of it is by previous life samskara? So, just being born in a female body will bring a particular orientation with that. Now, within that also there is variety. But the person who grows up in a particular environment, are we saying that the entire character of a person or nature of a person is only determined by the previous life samskara? Does the upbringing of this life make no difference at all? Then why emphasize parenting so much? It affects this life's upbringing also affects, isn't it? So if a girl is going to grow up in a culture where she's much more expected to be outgoing and assertive, and then to force her into some other mold is not natural. So now, on the other hand, so my understanding would be that to conclude this is that the key principle of Varnashram is that the material should not take so much of our headspace that we have too little headspace left for the spiritual. So, if a woman is happy doing the traditional gender role, then there is no need to force her to do something else in the name of serving Krishna. And if a woman is not oriented for the traditional gender roles, there is no need to force her into a traditional gender role for the sake of serving Krishna. So, whatever our swabhava is at present, we use in Krishna's service. So, there are many devotees who try to we have people who grew up in cities and they try to go and start farms. Now they can supervise farm, but actually do the physical labor of farming is very difficult for them. So now, does that mean that they're disqualified from practicing bhakti? No, they can engage others for that purpose. So the whole point of Varnashram is that the material should not come in the way of the spiritual. So in what way can the material be a solid foundation for pursuing the spiritual? That each individual will have to find out. Bhima did not have to become like Yudhishthira to become a devotee. And Yudhishthira didn't have to become like a Bhima. So everybody has their swabhava and they use that to serve Krishna. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shri Hanuman Ji ki
Jai.
jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta ki jai, Tangaur Premanand.
Yeah.
So we have books here.